Welcome back to the morning show, and thank you so much for staying with us even up until now. We continue conversations this morning, and we head on into a wonderful conversation as we speak with Mrs. Beverly Ramsey-Moore, President of Tobago. As you might be aware, that recently the National Musical Instruments Bill has been passed, making the steel pan the national instrument of Trinidad and Tobago, and no better person to have this conversation with this morning than with Beverly Ramsey-Moore. Good morning and welcome.
Good morning. Good morning to you, Adanna. Good morning, Tobago.
Right. Of course, before we get into the conversation itself, we have to talk about the emotional aspect of this conversation. Knowing that it took some time for us to get here. And here we are. The bill has been passed, and our national instrument is the steel pan. We know how you feel about the steel pan and the steel pan music and the movement. How do you feel knowing that it is official? Our national instrument is, in fact, the steel pan.
Of course, it's a wonderful feeling knowing that it took over 32 years since the declaration. The steel pan movement is as old, or I should say, much older than the very independence nation of Trinidad and Tobago. And for our pioneers, those in the 1930s and 1940s who would have struggled extremely hard to have this instrument evolved. And then in Prime Minister Patrick Manning would have given, as Independence Day message to the nation when he would have declared the pan as our national musical instrument. And then after that, nothing happened because it was just in an Independence Day message. But it was very important to have it as a law formally declared by the parliament. And so Trinbago, since over 32 years, would have celebrated August as our Steel Pan Month, making it very significant that look, Pan is Trinidad and Tobago. But it took some doing. There were those persons who were actually like Henry Harper, who, they were agitating and all of that for it to be done. But under my presidency, I would have formally approached our line minister to have it done. And it's really, really a wonderful feeling since it did not take very long for him to go to parliament. There was a lot of back and forth conversations between us because they were wondering how we could get this done. How could we pass this as a law here in Trinidad and Tobago? And eventually it went before the parliament. I sat there, I saw the entire house supporting it, both opposition and government. And so now we know definitely that steel pan is indeed the national musical instrument of Trinidad and Tobago and by law.
And it's amazing that you just said that there. As you sat there, you saw the support coming from the government and from the opposition. And they always say that two things that unite people: sports and music. And so I'm really
That's
happy
right.
that we had that measure of support to ensure that we got this done. And I'm thinking that sometimes in Trinidad and Tobago, we are so inventive and so creative, and we have so much talent here. And sometimes we allow people to steal things from us. But I
That's
admire the
right.
fact that the work was put in to ensure we got to this day. You mentioned that the late Prime Minister Patrick Manning mentioned in his conversation that
Yes, since
the pan is our
1992.
national
Mhm.
instrument, and now here we are, 2024, having it done.
That's
And I
right.
was, of course, following your Facebook, your social media pages, and seeing, of course, your lead up to the conversation, your lead up to, I'm here and it's happening. And I know that you feel really, really happy and proud about it. And you even mentioned how easy it was for you under your watch to make sure we had it done. And I want to say congratulations to all the persons who worked in on the back end, because sometimes we don't even know what's
Yes,
happening. There are a lot of people who work on
that's
the back
right.
end to get things done. So I want you to just walk us through. I mean, you mentioned some of the names, some of the struggles that you endure, not you personally, but in terms of the movement of the pan, to get to here, because 32 years you're talking about to get it to this. What were some of the keepbacks, the delays, the challenges that arose that you had to overcome to get to this place?
Well, I think basically, listen, one of the first things that had to happen is the cleaning up of the movement. Pantrinbago is a great organization, but we had some challenges. And if you want people to take you seriously, then there are a number of things that you have to do. All right. So, though in 1992 it was declared by former Prime Minister Patrick Manning, and Pan Trinbago started celebrating Pan Month, paying homage to the declaration by former Prime Minister. It was very important to put Pan Trinbago in a particular way so that people will take us seriously. And I think that is what my leadership brought to the table, taking Pan seriously. So, one, we had to ensure that we cleaned up our image, rebrand the image. And what we saw happening is that government and corporate Trinidad and Tobago trust us a little bit more. And because of that, it was easy to talk to government and also to corporate. And everywhere you go in Trinidad and Tobago, people will tell you, Ms. Ramsey-Moore, we are so proud of the work that you and your team is doing. So we won over the confidence of our line ministry and staff. So it was very easy for us to talk to our minister. And he was so enthused about moving forward with taking this bill to Parliament. And then you saw the executive champions coming on board. You saw our very president of Trinidad and Tobago in her inaugural speech, talking about making Pan the national musical instrument. And then you saw in the Senate, Senator Suniti Maraj also presenting a motion or a bill to also make Pan the national musical instrument. So there are a number of executive voices lent to the struggle. And so back and forth, working with the ministry and sending draft bills to Pan Trinbago for comment. We looking to our lawyer, Mr. Martin Daly, he given his comment. And so the various steps. And to me, that was most significant. And as long as you do your work well and have people trusting you, you see that trust? The Pan Trinbago of yesterday is no more. Is no more. And so, because of this new Pan Trinbago, this new image, one where we talk prosperity in Pan, one where we have clean audits, one where people can now trust you to give you money to spend, I think that is what would have done it for us, taking us seriously under my leadership. And then, therefore, I mean, even after the debate was finished in the lower house, and the government ministers and everybody, inviting us to come down on the floor and taking picture with us. And I mean, that was really, really a moment in time for me as a leader and for my entire team. Trinidad and Tobago must be or should be extremely proud of the achievement. It is definitely going to lift the profile. First, we're starting with our steel bands, knowing that this is definitely our national musical instrument by law. Now, sometimes you go to the panyard and sometimes you talk to your young players. Listen, this pan that you're playing, don't just take it simple. It is not an dustbin again. It is not an old drum again. This is a very expensive instrument. And now you know that it's a national symbol, something that is close to your heart, something that is going to give you that pride and that joy. Hey, we need to treat it better. We need better facilities. Now that it's a national symbol by law, then the work and the different levels of discussion will begin. Firstly, we need to have proper facilities for the national symbol. I always feel that government
Preempt
should
my
pause
next
on.
question, which was I was about to
Yes.
say, of course, as you mentioned, it's a moment for us to be really, really proud here in Trinidad and Tobago. And I am proud as well, and I was going to ask, well, what is next? Now that we have, as you mentioned, we have this in law, we have a legal binding document to say this is our national instrument. What next? And you started to say, of course, we cannot treat it as if it's something trivial. It has a
That's right.
value now. We've put a value to it. So where do we go
Correct.
from here? How do we improve the quality of the instrument itself, the quality of what the steel panel represents, and how do we wear it on an international stage to make claim to it as belonging to Trinidad and Tobago?
Very well. So I started from the very beginning, from the foundation, which is our steel bands. Now that your profile has lifted, you have national symbols in your paniard, then we need to ensure that that safe and sacred space is developed. I have been saying I think government should put a pause on building community centers and really upgrade paniards to a certain standard. A panyard is being used for the entire day, late in the night. More people visit a panyard than visit a community center. And we must see that too as a multi-purpose center because we capture young minds in there. It is also intergenerational. So we have not only the players, but the entire family participating in all that happens there. So we need to upgrade these spaces and put them to a level that anybody coming from anywhere in the world can feel proud to share those spaces with us. One, two, the mindset of our very persons who operate, our leaders. So here is where the empowerment and training begins. How we structure our organization to ensure that they too clean up their image because you have this safe and sacred space with a national emblem, a national symbol, one of pride, one of joy. Then we need to change the mindset of all our leaders, all our players to ensure that we too take off just as your main organization, Pantry and Bigo, is doing. Recently, I had conversation with persons from the Ministry of Foreign and CARICOM Affairs because we feel that every mission should have at least an ansam in their space so that even when we go abroad to promote the instrument, to sell, to promote the instrument, we don't have to travel with bands because we already have bands there and we can do this and the bands themselves can be able to use them. So that promotion and awareness program abroad, definitely we have to take that forward. The manufacturing sector, right now we have been working on another project with the ministry, and by the 9th of August that will be unveiled, which is another significant step that will be taken here in Trinidad and Tobago about the steel pan. So it is now opened up for a number of things, a number of persons to benefit, and I see this as turning the corner and going up the mountain now with new ideas for the human capital and also for our manufacturing sector and for our external relations arm in Pantry and Bigo because that has been a bit quiet. And now we have to focus on the restructuring, putting in the investment in terms of working together with government and our bands and all our main players, our ambassadors on the outside to get this instrument further. Now, what I love most about this bill is Clause 4. Clause 4 speaks about the minister going before the parliament every 2 years to report on what was done for PAN in the region and in and the outer world. And so because that minister must report every 2 years, then there must be a new strategic plan as to how we go forward because you must report, you can't go in the parliament and not report on anything. So I see that clause 4 giving us much more, teeth to move forward in terms of the things that we intend to do, not only here in Trinidad and Tobago, but in the region and in the international world. So we really, really look forward to that. I think it's a really, really wonderful opportunity and a great time for us here in the steel pan movement.
Much there that had me smiling on the back end here while I was listening to you. And we're going to take a short break and come back because there's so much more I want to ask you about this and to continue this conversation. So viewers, you're going to go for a short break. And in the meantime, we invite you to help us share the live, share the live, share the live. We'll be right back.
With a smile on your face when you're moving from place to place.
Welcome back to the morning show on Tobago Updates Television. We're just about 7:47 a.m. So if you get into work for 8 a.m., you have about 13 minutes to get there. Remember to drive safely on our nation's roads to get to work on time. All right, we continue conversations this morning. We're speaking with Mrs. Beverly Ramsey-Moore, President of Pantry and Bigo, of course, with all the excitement about our national instrument now being legally the steel pan. Welcome back, Mrs. Moore.
Yes, I'm right here.
Right. So before we went to the break, of course, you gave us a whole list of things that, you want to see the projections in terms of what is going to happen now that the steel pan is our legal instrument. And of course, clearly you spent time on this. Clearly you sat down and you thought about where do we want to position pan in the coming years. And I want to talk about that clause 4 because I hadn't paid attention to the entire bill. Clause 4, which speaks to the minister having to report every 2 years. And I know that for you, that will be a standout because I know you always have ideas churning in your mind as
That's
to where
right.
you want to see
Mhm.
the movement of pan going. And as I said, to have that measure of ownership. And you were talking about things that we should do in terms of elevating the panel that we have this status. And I want to talk about the panyards. You mentioned that the panyard should now be a place that is comfortable of a high standard. And let me tell you something. As you rightfully said, families come there because if I have a child playing pan, I know rehearsals go into the
Correct.
wee hours of the morning, and
Correct.
he's not going to stay there by himself. Mommy might have to be there, or daddy might have to be there. A lounge area, a kitchen,
That's
a
right.
kettle,
Hmm.
something, bathroom facilities. These are the types of things we're talking about. If you have visitors, people coming to the panyard, and I can see it,
That's right.
not because well, we want to do this, but because of the way you put it across, I can actually see it being integrated into how we operate. And of course, things like that give us that sense of pride. Because can you imagine walking into a complex, a pan complex? This
Yes.
conversation is so exciting. I've not been this excited to have this
Mhm.
measure of conversation in a long time. And I'm happy that you are sitting here in this position to drive this forward. And I want to give you, my full support, all the very best to you and the organization. And I want to see how you're going to use your team members because one thing I know about Beverly Ramsey-Moore is that she's not doing this alone. The team coming with
Correct.
her. And I'd love to see how you
Correct.
integrate the team to use their skills to do what needs to be done to get it there and to hold the minister accountable for what is going to happen in the coming 2 years because, as you said, he has to report. So, kudos to you, kudos to your team, kudos to the government of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. Many, many, many congratulations to you all. We're talking about now on an international stage. You mentioned a few things in terms of all the missions having steel band centers wherever we go. So when we go there, we can, of course, have claim to our steel pan. Tell me, how do you see this rolling out in terms of because if they have the steel pans there, how is it going to be used when the groups don't go to the countries? Is it that you are saying we should have groups in countries practicing using and of course establishing steel pan in the different countries?
All right. So, these missions have cultural attaches, and I don't think that we have established that relationship with these cultural attaches, and that is what we are definitely going to work on. You know, when we celebrated or when we went to the United Nations, where our line minister would have moved a resolution to have the World Steel Pan Day on the 11th of August. I mean, I was there sitting in the United Nations when all of that was happening. And we had entertainment in the afternoon, but we did not take a band up from Trinidad and Tobago to do that. We engaged bands from New York. Now, one of the things that we're going to do, and we are going to go at it very hard, is to have all those steel band associations affiliated to Pan Trinbago. Now, I don't know why that did not before, but it is very important to build the relationship, have those partnerships, establish ways in how we can provide that support to all those organizations. Because I mean, Trinidad and Tobago is the Mecca. Pan Trinbago is the world governing body of the steel pan. But outside of just saying we are the world governing body of steel pan, there is no framework in which we operate as the world governing body of steel pan outside of Trinidad and Tobago. So that is something that we are working on to establish. We ourselves will have our cultural or steel pan ambassadors in those countries who will do the work for us. So that is one of the things that we hope to establish before the end of the year. All right. And so as we continue to do that, strengthen the relationships, talk with those universities abroad that have a lot of steel pan programs happening and all of that. So we need now, with bold assurance, to go out there and to establish ourselves in the international world. And trust me, the new vibe and the new energy that is now on stage here with us, I think looking forward 2025 and beyond will definitely be a very, very positive year for us. Our team, marketing team, is already working extremely hard to ensure that that part of it is done. Because, for example, we provide support even to the regions. I just came back from St. Lucia, where we provide judges, we provide trophies, we provide guidance in terms of how to operate your panorama. We also worked with St. Vincent, even though they had a hurricane, but they still brought up the panorama. On Sunday, we provide technical support to them. And so it's just that we want to establish those in a proper framework as we continue to reach out, as we continue to build those relationships with the international world and with our regional partners. Coming up for World Steel Pan Day, we have we'll be working closely with the ministry because they're going to be having a conference, a steel pan conference here. And Pan Trinbago is working closely with them to ensure that we have those persons abroad come in to be a part of this conference. And at the end of that conference, we are hoping that we can come up with a resolution to have our Caribbean partners and our international partners on board so that we can start building out that framework as to how we move forward 2025 and beyond.
Love to see as well for Pan. I'm hoping that maybe you can take it on board. The public education in terms of alerting our citizens of the importance and what this means for us now that the steel pan is our national instrument, so that they too can treat it with that measure of pride and attach that value to it. More than that, also to go into our schools, make it a part of the curriculum somehow, whether formally or informally,
Yes.
so that we can, all be associated and affiliated with the fact this is ours, because we see it, as you mentioned, on international stages. We see so many people making claim to it. But the thing about it, because it is ours, and we see people of different cultures, different races, different countries playing the pan, it brings a new level of pride to us. So I really want to see the public education roll out on a national scale to ensure that we understand what has taken place and what this now means for us.
I love that, Adanna. I really, really, because listen to me. You mean you're going to school from ever since, the question, what is the national musical instrument? You write the steel pan, and that was it, full stop, Even the players who come in to play, some of them in the Pania, they come in to play for Panorama, and we come in to play because we know at the end of the Panorama, we getting how much money or rounds and we're checking the money. But in terms of the instrument, we always have to tell them, listen, that is yours, love it, kiss up your pan. A steel pan, listen, if you want a really great tenor pan, trust me, it's about $8,000 you're paying for that. When you think about the amount of instruments that we have in a pan yard, listen, it's over $1 million. In terms of the instrument, the value, the contribution that we as leaders make free of charge. When you put all of that value together, listen, it's a lot of money. And people don't really see that. We do a lot. And so that information and that awareness locally, definitely, people must know that it's a national symbol. It gives us as leaders and trainers much more information and much more weight that, hey, you need to take care of this. It is yours. Know that it was born out of struggle and resilience, knowing where it came from, as we say, behind the bridge with the outcasts of society. The history in itself, listen to me, Pan is spirit, Pan is life. That circle of love. There is so much that you can use about what happens in a panyard. Even the social skills, life skills, the training, the discipline, panyard management. Listen, it's a lot. It's a lot. So now, with all hands on deck, I think we can do a lot for this country, using Pan as a vehicle for social transformation, bringing in foreign exchange, all poverty reduction, crime reduction. There is so much that we can do, and I really, really look forward to having all hands on deck, not just Pantry and Big alone. You too, Adanna, using your medium. I don't know how much steel pan music you all play, but using your medium, and let's go with it. We have it now. We have clean leaders. We have clean leadership. The entire movement. We're going to see that transformation process, and we will make Trinidad and Tobago proud. Trust me.
Of course, certainly and absolutely. And of course, with you at the helm, we look forward to great things coming from the Steel Pan fraternity here in Trinidad and Tobago and on the international stage. Ladies and gentlemen, we've been
That's
speaking with
right.
Mrs. Beverly Ramsey-Moore, President of Pantry and Tobago, as we celebrate the declaration and by law having the steel
That's
pan as the
right.
national instrument of Trinidad and Tobago. All the best to
And
you,
just
Mrs.
before you
Moore, as you
run off,
continue.
I just want to thank all the persons who would have contributed to moving this forward. It's a great day for us, and I want to thank you so much. You know, I love talking with you, and I really, really appreciate this interview this morning.
Of course, an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much.